Hi, everyone. Welcome to the SOMAH Property Owner Series Upfront Technical Assistance webinar. I'd like to start by introducing you to today's speakers. My name is Rachel Diaz, and I'm a Marketing Education and Outreach Coordinator with the SOMAH Program Administrator team. Presenting today, we have SOMAH PA team members Karina Gonzalez, who is also a Marketing Education and Outreach Coordinator, and Zara Jamshed, who is a Technical Coordinator. I would also like to introduce you to two other members of the SOMAH PA that we have on the line to field questions during the Q&A portion of the webinar. We have Michael Klaproth and Sarah Hill on the line. Today's agenda will begin with a brief explanation of how the SOMAH PA is addressing COVID-19, and then we'll move into a brief SOMAH program overview, a deep dive into the different application tracks, a review of services offered through Upfront Technical Assistance, or TA, and how to apply for Track A with a live demonstration portion, and resources offered by the SOMAH PA, and then a final question and answer session. And so I do want to just take a brief moment to discuss SOMAH's response to COVID-19. So during this difficult time, we want to acknowledge the importance of putting everyone's health and safety first and heeding public health guidance about COVID-19. Low-income and disadvantaged communities are inherently more vulnerable, and we are keeping that at the forefront of our minds during response planning for the program. Our team is currently developing the appropriate accommodations for the program requirements as necessary, but keep in mind that all requirements must still be met for SOMAH to receive that incentive payment. And so the SOMAH PA has issued a current 60-day extension to application due dates and suspension periods. Additionally, all on-site audits and inspections have been put on hold. So the goals of the SOMAH program are to provide clean power and energy cost savings to California multifamily affordable housing residents, promote economic development in disadvantaged communities, provide maximum direct tenant benefits, and increase the pool of contractors and establish a competitive bidding process. So one of the main differences between the former Multifamily Affordable Solar Housing, or MASH program, and the SOMAH program is the funding source. For SOMAH, funding comes through proceeds from the greenhouse gas allowances that are allocated to each of the California investor-owned utility companies. And that funding is set at $100 million annually and is capped by each of the utility territories based on the greenhouse gas auction proceeds. Projects may only receive incentives from the utility in which the project is located. And note that while funds will be collected only through 2026, the program will run through 2030 to allow reserved installations to be completed and any leftover funds to be allocated to new projects. So currently, the SOMAH program is fully subscribed in the SDG&E and PG&E utility territories, while SCE, Liberty, and Pacific Core utility territories still have budget available. Although we currently have a wait list for PG&E, we still encourage you to continue to submit applications to be put on a wait list, which locks in the incentive rate that is available at the time of your submission. And while the waitlist is closed in SDG&E, we encourage you to reach out to us and to discuss potential multi-year projects. More information is available at calsomah.org/waitlist. So an eligible property for SOMAH must have at least 5 units. It needs to be a deed-restricted property with at least 10 years remaining on the term of the property's affordability restrictions. It needs to have separately metered units where tenants pay their own utility bills, and it needs to be an existing building or retrofit. So new construction is ineligible for the SOMAH program, but however, if a property has a certificate of occupancy, it's no longer considered new construction and can apply for SOMAH. Additionally, the property must fit into one of the two defined categories. It must either have 80% of property residents at or below 60% of the area median income, or the property must be located in a disadvantaged community that scores in the top 25% of census tracts statewide. And so you can find that percentage or where that property falls into by using the CalEnviroScreen 3.0 tool. That should be able to help you there. You just enter in the address and it will populate a percentage. And finally, the property must also be a customer of a utility or community choice aggregator in one of the 5 participating utility territories.
Now let's get into the different application tracks for SOMAH. So there are 2 options to receive technical assistance through the SOMAH program. First, there's Track A, or Upfront Technical Assistance. Upfront Technical Assistance is designed to help property owners understand the basics of solar and the feasibility of solar for the property, as well as associated costs and benefits of going solar. We will get into more details on what services are offered specifically through Track A later in the presentation. There's also Track B, and Track B is an option for property owners who have already selected a contractor and are ready to move forward without upfront technical assistance from the PA. Both Track A and Track B applicants can get what is called standard technical assistance throughout the application process. Track A allocates 3 months of upfront technical assistance prior to submitting the reservation request, whereas Track B starts the application process at submitting the reservation request. Both tracks have 18 months from the time of reservation, from the time that the reservation request is approved to submit the incentive claim package. So now let's get into a review of SOMAH's bidding requirement. The SOMAH PA has 2 resources available to help host customers in understanding their project bids by providing an apples-to-apples comparison across bids. The first tool is the online bidding portal, which is an online platform that property owners can use to solicit bids from solar contractors. And the second tool is the SOMAH bid template, which is a PDF form that customers may use in place of the online bidding portal. For Track A participants, multiple bids will be obtained after the upfront technical assistance period. It's mandatory for this track to obtain at least 3 bids to review, and a contractor must be selected before moving forward with the reservation request. Customers participating in Track B may elect to collect multiple bids or choose to waive the multiple bid requirement. Those who choose to waive the multiple bid requirement will be required to submit a multiple bid waiver. This waiver acknowledges their awareness of the bidding tools and their choice to decline and proceed with their existing contractor. While the host customer may submit a multiple bid waiver, the SOMAH PA strongly encourages property owners to solicit multiple bids, as it will ensure they are getting the best value.
In this section, we will go over what services are covered through Upfront TA. Next slide, please. Upfront technical assistance services can assist the property owner in understanding the solar potential of their site and understanding the associated costs and benefits of moving forward with a SOMAH project. Technical assistance can also help with project financing options based on the specific needs of your property or portfolio. Upfront technical assistance services include providing financial analysis, establishing the common versus tenant area split of your system, and coordination with other statewide programs in energy efficiency, clean mobility, or energy storage. All Track A projects will have a designated energy project manager who will serve as a single point of contact and work with the property owner throughout the TA process. Additionally, Upfront TA will provide you with a comprehensive report that houses all of the TA findings and property data. The TA report includes the following: site and energy usage information, PV system sizing and sample design,
which includes a satellite image of your property and where solar modules can be installed for maximum output. Financial analysis that shows how a cash purchase may differ from a lease or a power purchase agreement. Estimated cost savings and SOMAH incentives your property may be eligible for. And a utility rate analysis that will illustrate how your bill may look after going solar. The upfront TA process is individually tailored towards property owner preferences, and that is one of the benefits of working with our SOMAH technical assistance team. I'll now pass it back.
Now that we understand what technical assistance is, I will go into how to sign up for a PowerClerk account and give a live demonstration of how to submit an upfront TA request. First, let's get into PowerClerk. PowerClerk version 2 is the online platform used by the SOMAH program. Applicants are required to use it to submit applications. PowerClerk provides tools to monitor incentive applications, consolidate incentive documentation, and export project information. It also provides notifications regarding project status and other updates and keeps records of all activities within the application so the user can go back to previous applications and reference submitted information. So let's go over the registration steps so that you're prepared to create a PowerClerk account. To register for an account, you must go into the SOMAH PowerClerk login page for the utility territory that you wish to submit applications for. If you plan on submitting applications in more than one investor-owned utility, select one of the IOUs to create an account with first. Once you've accessed the SOMAH PowerClerk login page, click the register link below the login section. This will route you to a registration form, which must then be completed with your personal information. The company field here is optional, but should be completed when applicable. Once the form has been completed, you click register. An automated email will be sent with a link that must be clicked in order to complete the registration process. Each of the 5 participating IOUs count as a separate program in PowerClerk, so it's possible to register and submit applications for all 5 of the IOUs. So there are 4 documents required to obtain upfront technical assistance. They must be submitted before the request is approved. The first is the documentation of multifamily low-income housing eligibility. This verifies that the property is multifamily housing and is financed with low-income housing tax credits, tax-exempt mortgage revenue bonds, general obligation bonds, or local, state, or federal loans or grants. The second is the cover sheet for multifamily low-income housing documentation. This form is generated through PowerClerk and is used to verify that the property meets the SOMAH program eligibility requirements. The third is a letter of authorization to receive customer information or act on a customer's behalf. This letter of authorization basically just gives the SOMAH PA permission to pull consumption data from the utility on behalf of the host customer. And you can download this form on calsomah.org. And then finally, we need a list of tenant addresses. Now that you know how to create a PowerClerk account, I'm going to transition to a live demonstration on how to submit an upfront technical assistance request through PowerClerk. So once you create a PowerClerk account, the first thing that you're going to do is click this new Upfront Technical Assistance Request button in the top corner. That will bring you to this page. The first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you are submitting an application for the correct utility territory. So in this example, it's for Liberty territory. And you click Next. On this page, you fill out host customer information and applicant information. So start off by filling in the applicant information and then scroll down here under customer information. If it is a different person that is submitting the application, you would click New Contact. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to say that it's the same as the applicant. Next is host customer contact type. So a drop down here if it's a property manager or property owner, and then if you prefer email or phone. This next page is project site information. So fill out the project site information, property name, and site address. Property ownership type, so for-profit, nonprofit, or hybrid. And if you have received a certificate of occupancy. Next, we'll go into some basic property characteristics. So we have total number of units, number of multifamily buildings on the property, number of building stories, number of meters for common area, and account and meter numbers here. Finally, we have some program information. So how did you hear about this program? And then here you're going to select what types of upfront technical assistance you're interested in receiving. So we have solar feasibility, financing, coordination with non-SOMAH energy programs and upgrades, contractor bidding support, and SOMAH reservation support. And you can just simply click on which options you want to receive. So then finally, we go into documentation. So as noted here, all documentation is required in order to approve the technical assistance, but you're not required to submit all of it to submit the request. So if you only have some documentation and you need assistance with the other documentations or where to find that, you can just put what you have here and then we will coordinate with you to help you get all of the other documentation. For the cover sheet, you're going to click here and it'll generate a document. This document is a PDF, and you'll want to fill out this PDF and have it signed and then upload it to the placeholder here. The next is documentation of multifamily low-income housing eligibility, and you would put that there. And then the letter of authorization, as I mentioned previously, is found on calsomah.org. So if you go to the apply page on calsomah.org and you click here on Upfront Technical Assistance Request, it will have all of the letters of authorization here as fillable PDF for each of the utility territories. Finally, it's the list of tenant addresses. So it's accepted in any format and you can upload that here. And then finally, you click submit and it will give you a SOMAH application number. So it's a pretty straightforward process. And like I mentioned before, if you need assistance with any of the documents, then the SOMAH PA is here to help you along the way. So after you've submitted the request, the SOMAH PA will review your application to determine eligibility. If all of the required documents are submitted and eligibility is confirmed, the application manager will send the utility a request for consumption data, and the energy project manager will need this to determine how to size your system. After we receive the data from the utility, we will issue an approval for the upfront technical assistance request, and your energy project manager will reach out to you to discuss further details about the project. If a document is submitted incorrectly, you're missing documents, or if we need more clarification on a specific document, we will place your application in a suspension status where you will have 20 days to submit the necessary corrections. As I previously mentioned, due to COVID-19, we have issued extensions to all suspension periods. So if you submit an application at this time, you will have an 80-day suspension period as opposed to the previous 20 days. The SOMAH PA also offers additional resources for property owners that are available on our website that includes a series of TA videos that dive further into upfront technical assistance, resources for how to engage your tenants, information on gap financing, and more.
We are now going to jump into the Q&A portion of the webinar. So it looks like the first question here is for Karina. Karina, on a project, for a project it asks for account number and meter number. Does every individual meter need to be individually metered, or is it master metered? So what types of meters are acceptable for SOMAH?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that is correct. Individually metered units are required for SOMAH. I think the confusion may have been during the live demonstration on the project site page where it asks for account and meter number, and that's referring to common area meters. So those are the meter numbers that you would need to enter in at that point.
Great, thank you for the clarification. So moving on, it looks like we have a question about more of what the TA process looks like. And so for Track A properties, what does a 3-month TA process look like? What should property owners expect, and how do we plan for this or prepare? It looks like this is a question for Sarah.
Well, let's see. So Track A projects are going to be submitting a technical assistance request form through PowerClerk as shown during the webinar, along with some of the basic eligibility documents. But after the program confirms that the property is eligible for SOMAH, the program will assign an energy project manager to each property as the single point of contact for the technical support. So upfront technical assistance is really designed to help the property owners get ready to submit their projects for reservation.
Great, thanks, Sarah. So it looks like our next question is asking a little bit more about the documents that are required in order to submit a request for upfront technical assistance or upfront TA. Karina, would you be able to provide a little bit more insight on what documents are required?
Sure. So as I mentioned in the presentation, there are 4 documents required to submit an upfront technical assistance request. So first is documentation of multifamily low-income housing eligibility. So this is some type of regulatory agreement that verifies that the property is multifamily housing finance with low-income housing tax credits or other general obligation bonds and things like that. The second is the cover sheet for the multifamily low-income housing documentation. Then it verifies that the property with the SOMAH permission to get that consumption data from the utility. And then finally, we need a list of tenant addresses.
Great, thanks, Karina. I think your audio may have cut out a little bit on what the cover sheet is. Could you just touch upon the cover sheet once more, just in case folks also had the audio issue?
Sure, sorry about that. So the cover sheet is basically just used to verify that the property meets the SOMAH program eligibility requirements.
Thanks, Karina. So our next question is asking for a little bit more clarification on the difference between standard TA and upfront TA. I think this is a question for Zara. Zara, would you be able to provide some more insight there?
Sure. So upfront technical assistance is what's considered Track A, and upfront TA is specifically for property owners who are curious about what their solar feasibility is and don't necessarily have a set contractor in mind already. And they want to understand how much of the SOMAH incentive they're eligible for, and what are the associated costs after the SOMAH incentive. And standard technical assistance is available to both Track A and Track B participants. And this encompasses energy efficiency, compliance help, general project management and construction support, virtual net energy metering and interconnection questions, and these are for property owners and contractors who have already had a reservation request submitted already. Upfront technical assistance happens before a reservation request is made.
Gotcha. Thanks, Sarah. That was super informative and helpful. So moving on, it looks like we have a question for Michael. Michael, can you discuss the special considerations listed on the website for USDA properties?
Sure. So at this moment, USDA properties will need to submit a letter from USDA to the SOMAH PA, acknowledging that the property will be permitted to exclude SOMAH solar credits from utility allowance calculations. Regional USDA managers have actually received authorization from the USDA Multifamily Housing Program Director to provide owners letters upon request stating that the owner is allowed to exclude solar credits. At that point, owners then would submit the USDA letter to the SOMAH program as part of their reservation package. The SOMAH PA is currently working on streamlining this process to make it a bit easier, but for now, owners will still need to go through that process of securing the letter from USDA for each of their properties.
Thank you, Michael. I have a second question, or another question here for Karina. Can property owners still request an interest call during this shelter-in-place period?
That's a great question. So absolutely, the SOMAH PA is still up and running, so property owners can continue to request interest calls for in-depth program information and overview, as well as portfolio review during this shelter-in-place period. And in order to do so, you can contact us at contact@calsomah.org, and we can arrange that for you.
Thanks, Karina. So we have a question about the SDG&E territory. Karina, why are the SDG&E properties unable to submit reservation requests at this time?
So due to a pretty long wait list, the SDG&E wait list is closed to new applications at this time. We strongly encourage property owners in the SDG&E region to reach out to the SOMAH PA to plan potential multi-year projects.
Great, thanks, Karina. So it looks like we have one question left, and this is also for Karina. What documentation is not required at the time of the application? What were the names of those documents, and what is it for?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So as I mentioned during the live demonstration, all documentation will be required in order to approve the upfront technical assistance request. However, it's not required to submit it. So you can just submit what documents you have, and then the SOMAH PA will work with you to get all of the other required documentation in order to approve the application. But the 4 documents that need to be that are required in order for us to approve the technical assistance request are the documentation of multifamily low-income housing eligibility, the cover sheet for multifamily low-income housing eligibility, the letter of authorization, and then a list of tenant addresses. So say you only have the documentation of multifamily low-income housing eligibility at the time you're submitting the request, feel free to just submit that document, and then we will reach out to you in order to get more clarification on the other documents and to help you submit those.
Great, thank you, Karina. So it looks like we were able to answer all of the questions, so we are going to wrap up the Q&A portion here. So thank you all for asking such great questions and for being actively engaged in the webinar. If for some reason you have additional questions or you think of additional questions later on, these questions can be emailed to contact@calsoma.org, or you can contact us at the number that's listed on the slide. And for your convenience, today's slide deck will be sent out by the end of the day today. And thank you again for attending our SOMAH Property Owner Series Understanding Project Bids webinar.